Hello and welcome to Raising Anchor, your podcast and source for all things Rhode Island FC. I'm your host, Matt Entrikin, and this is your Monday Mailbag for June 2nd, 2025. Jason, we did it. We got the first win, the first goal ever against Bob Lilly and the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, and it only took 289 minutes for us to find that back of the net solution. I mean, some people are going to say, whatever, it's the Jägermeister Cup, but this is a big deal in a lot of different ways. And what were your overall thoughts, and how are you doing, by the way?
I'm doing great. Happy to get the goal, happy to get the win. I mean, we'll talk about it here in a minute or two, and then maybe some more in depth on Thursday. Maybe not the greatest game, but sometimes you just got to get that monkey off your shoulder. You just got to get that win. Went to a Puerto Rico versus Nicaragua friendly this afternoon. That was a lot of fun. The vibes were great. Despite it being June 1st, New England weather is still going to New England, and it started raining in the 75th minute. And everyone kind of left the stands to go and hide. I mean, awnings win. I don't know. And then in classic Centerville Bank Stadium, there was a rainbow in the same spot that it keeps appearing. So, I mean, if there's a rainbow at every game, though, like I'm okay with like 5 to 10 minutes of rain per match. But I don't know. It feels at some point they're going to have to make a tough decision there in regards to the rain. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we interviewed Brett, and I spoke very candidly with him because sometimes I get accused of being too nice with the club. I play too nice. And I asked him directly, I said, between the article that we had heard out of Hartford Athletic earlier this year that they need I think it was a $25 million investment to improve the infrastructure around Trinity Stadium for an awning, as well as some other things to protect fans from inclement weather. I asked Brett carte blanche, like, hey, if your closest sister stadium that's outdoor, exposed to the elements, is saying that it's a major detractor for fan attendance, what are your thoughts on how you'll set this up? And he said, well, hey, listen, like there's other sports that are out here that are they don't pause or they don't stop because of the rain, thinking of the Revolution, the Patriots. And he said, and fans still show up, and like, sure, like there's some determination and grit from the New England, faithful to show up for those games, but it's a lot easier when you have an awning. And when I asked him, he said, it's in the designs for the phase 2 project when they move up to the premiership and they expand the stadium to 15,000, but it was too cost prohibitive, figuratively and literally, to implement it now. But yeah, I think that this is going to be a continued conversation and talking point. And I can feel the negative naysayers online looking for any avenue to complain about this club or the sport itself, that every time it rains and people don't show up, or they leave the stadium or they go and hide somewhere, that they're going to say, like, this is a failed project. You knew it was going to rain in New England, Jason. Why didn't you think ahead? And we're just going to have to deal with it. And in Brett's words, like, we're just going to kind of have to like show up and, not make such a big deal about it for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm fine with it. But I look at it and think, maybe some of the quote-unquote casuals would have looked at the weather that day and is like, there's potential of rain. There's clouds out. New England is going to New England, and it's just going to rain during the game because that just is what happens. So if you keep away enough people, I don't know, at some point long-term, I think they really need to be sliding that into the plans and saying maybe this is the next expansion. For now, it's fine. At the end of the day, the vibes were great. It was a real fun time. Very much a tale of two halves. Puerto Rico dominated the first half. They were really good about getting the ball out wide. They were dominating possession. They were playing between the lines. It was a lot of fun. And it was a primarily, dominant Puerto Rican supporter, in the crowd. So they were loving it. But they only got one goal. And then the second half, Nicaragua came out, and they came out with a vengeance, and they dominated that second half. And they ended up getting a goal. And there was quite a few Nicaraguan fans as well too, really enjoying it. Ultimately, it was a fun game. There was a lot of excitement to be had. Definitely some CONCACAF times. There was a few moments where fights almost broke out, and maybe someone to get some injury treatment, and then they just started busting out some Bad Bunny music, which is kind of funny to see. Like, you're like, hey, we got an injured player over here. This might be a minute. Let's entertain the crowd by playing some Bad Bunny, you know?
I always I always appreciate that we call them friendlies, but sometimes there's nothing friendly about these types of matches. So that's always exciting. Was there a lot of squad rotation between the halves? Is that one of the reasons that Puerto Rico fell off, as maybe they put on more junior players? Or
I think it was more tactics. And I think that they just kind of came out there and made some adjustments, and there was some rotation, but not enough right off the half to, I think, warrant that much of a shift. I think they just needed to kind of maybe take a breather, adjust themselves tactically, and then they kind of got back into the match there second half.
was Beto Yidrich there from the Riverhounds?
That I don't remember. Bot Mob doesn't give the lineup, and
that's fair.
Friendly.
Your only win is media.
And so the problem too is that Nicaragua didn't have any like player names on their kits, so I couldn't tell who any of them were per se. It was not easy to find information on this match outside of the score.
Sure.
So, and I was, just catching up with a lot of people. There was quite a few Defiance and, regular RAFC fans who made the match. So that was kind of pleasantly surprised there. I wasn't sure what the ratio of people going was in terms of like, well, I know that everyone in our supporters group is Puerto Rican. So do they care enough? Like, are they invested enough? Are they soccer sickos that they're like, there's a soccer match here. Maybe I don't have any affiliation, but I've got that soccer itch. We didn't have a home game this weekend, so why not?
Yeah, no, I was curious to see, because Beto was not on the Riverhound squad for the Jägermeister Cup, so I assumed that he would then make the travel. Interestingly, and there's a question on here about Isaac Anking in a minute, but when we can talk at length about the performance of the game, the good, the bad, and the ugly, but the reality is like one of my favorite storylines of the night was seeing Isaac Anking dressed for this game, for this match. It told me two things right away. And I don't know if this is like the technical masterclass of Coach Cano Smith, but, was it because he dressed him so that he wasn't going to be available for travel and selection in the Puerto Rico friendly? Like, did he remove the ability for Anking to have to tell his squad, I can't go and participate in this friendly, even though I've quote unquote been cleared? I thought that was a masterclass. I mean, obviously, if he's ready to play, then, it's Cano's right to select his players, but I kind of saw some of that as like the political football maneuvering of, hey man, sorry, you can't go represent Puerto Rico at our stadium because I need you here at Highmark Stadium. So interesting part on it. But hey, listen, last time I checked,
I got a quick update on this. So maybe I need to start using SofaScore more. So they actually have like the formation and lineup. So Beto Idrak did sub in in the 70th minute.
See, if they had him in as a center back, maybe no goal would have been scored from Nicaragua. So there you go. But hey, we're hashtag not a Puerto Rico FC podcast. We got to get back to the game that we are here to talk about, which is the historic first win ever for Rhode Island FC against this Pittsburgh Riverhounds side. Just talking about the game overall, I'd say let's just jump straight into the comments and the questions from the listeners and kind of just ride the wave as we go through it. So let's start off with Joe P, which, by the way, I don't think he's missed a single week of leaving some sort of comment on the submission form. So Joe, always at the top of the list because he's always ready to ask us questions or share his thoughts on each match.
Yeah, shout out to Joe. He looks more a little bit more of a statement, but we can kind of unpack this here. This game was the opposite of their home game, thanks to a Pittsburgh turnover, which led to a Chico assist and a Quizera goal. If you score first against Pitt, you have them. Thanks to Mertz for hitting the post and a solid defensive effort. I think Chico had a better game. Thanks to Kano getting on him, I think we still need another striker to push our regulars.
Interesting. So first and foremost, this was a game. I don't know if it was a attractive game, Jason. I think maybe, when we talk about stylistic points or entertainment value, I don't know that this game had any of that. I don't know that any Pittsburgh game has ever had any of that. And I think I've said this line before, so apologize if I'm recycling it, but I hold it to baseball. In a perfect game, on one side of it, if you're there and your team's the one pitching a perfect game, it can be really thrilling. And if your other team, it's the most boring thing in the entire planet, and you're hoping that you break it. But when you don't, all you get to say is like, I saw something very historic, but that doesn't mean it's beautiful. That doesn't mean it's fun to watch. I agree with Joe's assessment on, the defensive effort. I think the underlying story here, and Torn called it out in the player performance ratings, I think, having Jackson Lee show up in a monstrous way and get the clean sheet against this Pittsburgh side, super important, not only for the progression in the Jägermeister Cup, but now we've learned Koke Vegas does have some sort of injury. We don't know yet the extent to it. We believe it's a lower body injury. So don't know if that means, it's a 1 week, or if Jackson Lee's now going to have to be the guy for a little bit longer here in this series. So that's a great confident booster. And then, I think Chico, I think this is exactly what you want from Chico. I know everyone wants a hat trick from him. Everyone wants goals, but the guy's like putting his body out there. He sets the assist up. And that was probably the most exciting moment, not because of the goal, but just because when you see a back heel and it works and it leads to a goal, like that can be just as rewarding as seeing the ball go in the back of the net. So I think Kano got this lineup right. Joe saying we need another striker. I don't know if we've talked at length that we didn't think we needed to prioritize a striker. And we've also said on this show, it would be nice to have that third option. But I think not to seesaw this, but if we go back to it, I still think we have forwards available to us that are of the same quality of what we could go out and spend money on. Because let's face it, there's probably not much left in the war chest to go out and get a player. It would have to be an MLS loanee at this point. So, like, if we moved Maxi to the top, like Detroit was doing, that's our backup. If we tuck Noah in, sure, is it going to work? No, not ideally, but that's our backup. Joe Brito shows in 15 to 20 minutes he tries harder than any other player on the pitch. Isaac Anking now back. That's one of our backups. So, like, I think at this point, I don't know. I mean, I would love another striker. Don't get me wrong, but like, do we need it with JJ right around the corner and Chico playing with his heart on his sleeve? Like, I don't know that we need another striker. We would benefit from one, but it's like when you say, like, I dislike someone or I hate them. To truly hate someone is like a whole nother level of negative platitude, versus like, hey, I just think this guy's annoying. So I don't know. I'm rambling. That's how I feel about it. What say you?
Yeah, no, I think it's a pretty fair assessment of the game. It wasn't exciting. Backheel assists, fantastic. I mean, backheel goals even better, but that's a great way for Chico to boost his confidence there. And I think even if as long as he's getting either an assist or a goal, I'm happy. I think there could still be some work there that could be done with the scoring, but we won. Pittsburgh is tough to play against. Wasn't pretty. Kind of one of those things where got the job done. You're happy to just get out of there with the points. And then, I think in regards to another striker, it's hard to say. I don't know if bringing on someone like a up and coming college player, like a Kevin Rodoy, if you will, would really push the envelope to make someone like Chico or JJ really need to perform. And then if we go to the MLS loanee market, is that what we're going to be looking for? Or Would it be something maybe I mean, in some ways, would you want someone who's like somewhere in between, like a Doyle, for instance, someone who's technically a striker, technically a winger, could kind of play either or to maybe have some more rotation. Fuson wasn't bad, but didn't have, still hasn't really clicked this year. So do we like have someone maybe to like push him to be better?
I mean, Noah took a long time to get ready to go, right? Like Noah's stint kind of happened at the same time that the team fell into form. So I don't know if Noah's the type of player that benefits from when the system is on point and he amplifies it because he's getting what he needs out of it. There's two types of players out there, right? There's those that benefit in the system and then amplify it, and there are those that need no, external input and can just be the creation, can be the spark that makes a team better, right? And I think Noah's more in the former than the latter on that. And so I think that as this team starts to turn the page, we'll also see that from Noah's game. Because again, remember right now, we said this, and I think the big change this week, we said last week, no one was really afraid of Chico. And in this game, Chico did something that I haven't seen him do yet this year, where he kind of changed into this hold-up striker. I don't know if you saw that, where basically he took on one of the center backs and was just dueling. And 9 out of 10 times he fell to the ground. And with this ref and the way it slowed the game down, it worked for us. But normally Chico's not that player to fight off the back line. Like he'll hover around it, look for the pass. I mean, he can get physical, don't get me wrong, but he was like a target forward, holding up the ball, always constantly encroaching on the back line, and just wrapped around or he himself wrapping around one of their defenders to the point that like it got really chippy with him. I mean, he got beat up in this game big time. So like I can't think back, and I'm not going to look too hard, but I don't remember seeing that from him. That's always been JJ's domain. So if we're going to get more of that when JJ is not around, that can serve as a big advantage. I mean, that's literally how the goal opened up for Quezera, right? He's up there, the ball deflects and comes into his space, and he's ready to fight them all. And like for the first time, you saw three defenders kind of start to trap down on Chico, which normally hasn't been. Like they spread out, they go find the Fusons, the Quezeras, the Rodriguez's, and this time, like, no, we're all gonna like jump on Chico right now, and then Chico just flicks it out of the way with the back heel, and Quezera's off to the races. So if we can see that, then I think that's where the beauty can be. But if we need another striker, I don't know if it's like a small, speedy cut in between lines, be really technical and just like threaten and stretch defenses, or if we just need another big body out there so that when the defense is tired, we throw another JJ Williams sized player, maybe not the same skill set, maybe not the same level of goal scoring, but just like another big body endurance. I don't know. And right now, I'm not even looking for that third option. I think we have what we need.
That's fair.
All right, let's jump into the next question. Kevin B wants to know, what are your thoughts on the Jägermeister Cup so far? Got quite a few questions about the JC tonight, so let's try to be technical so that way we don't answer into the next ones here. What are your overall thoughts on the Jägermeister?
I mean, overall thoughts, I think it's been really fun. I mean, I didn't get a chance to go through all the matches, but I saw a lot of score lines that were pretty exciting. Portland Hearts of Pine showing up big there, 4-2 against Detroit. Hartford doing okay in the cup so far, interestingly enough. That kind of makes our matchup against them a lot more interesting. So I'd say so far so good. I think it's living up to its title as a cup competition, where you're seeing maybe some teams throw a little more caution to the wind. So with the exception of our match last night, it seems like it's been a pretty fun time for a lot of teams out there so far.
Yeah, and I think you're spot on with that. I think that when you look at the Jägermeister Cup as a tournament, I think it's starting to solidify in the minds of a lot of fans. A lot of discourse online from championship side fans going like, what is this USL 1 team doing dunking on my club? Like, that's not how this is supposed to work. It's like, welcome to knockout soccer that isn't the Open Cup. Like, this is exactly, I think Kaylor Hodges said it best. Like, there are some really good teams and some really good profiles in terms of
Charleston
player
lost
talent.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've lost to 2 lower division teams. And like I don't know if maybe they're just not taken seriously or they're underestimating their opponent, not realizing there's a lot of talent in this USL system.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And it's not like this is an add-on number of games. You still have to play your group stages no matter what. So you're not, by bowing out early, you're not benefiting your players' legs in any way, shape, or form. So I've been overall very thrilled with it. I think it's a good production value. And I can't wait to see kind of what some of this cup magic will look like down the stretch.
Yeah. And next one here from Megan M. Wouldn't it make more sense to have 8 groups, 6 groups of 5, and 2 groups of 4? I hate the 2 wild cards. What are your thoughts?
It's a good question, Megan. I think that this was more of a response. And so, in case for those of you following along, right now the current format is that there are 4 groups of 6 and 2 groups of 7. Ironically, each group only plays 4. Like, you only play 3 other teams in your group. So in those groups of 7, like 3 of these teams aren't seeing each other at all. And so it's almost like, why are you in the same quote unquote groups? So I don't disagree with Megan at all about like reducing the structure down. Obviously, it's a little difficult when you're at a odd number of teams to be able to divide by any easy number, whether that be 6, 5, or 4. But the reality is, to the point of the structure of it, I don't mind the wild cards, but like, I don't like the way the wild cards are set up. I would prefer more of a baseball where you can qualify for the wild card, but then you have to play like a drop-in game, and then that's where you have to tack on that midweek game, and it could be anywhere in the entirety of the tournament, right? And like, that's the reality, right? Like, that's where it gets, those games could be really, really insightful on like, hey, like, this is our chance. Do we really want to go for it? We have to travel to Omaha, or like, could you imagine we have to travel to Spokane on the drop of a hat? That could be really difficult, but that could also be some of the most exciting soccer. For it to just be the top 2, it really comes down to like, when I look back to it, I don't remember off the top of my head, but like, I don't think every single group is symmetrically balanced with the number of championship teams as well as the number of USL 1 teams. So I'm sure there's an advantage somewhere that we're not really quite understanding yet. And then also a little bit of a disadvantage when you're in these larger groups and say like, okay, well, do I have the right lineup set to be successful here based on the opposition that's in my group? So I would like to see this be fleshed out a little bit more. And I think, Brett Louie, I think a lot of fans would know that name. I know that him and because he's in charge of competition structure, I think that they're going to get this right over the next year as more championship and USL 1 teams come online. I don't think this is more than just like a pressure test to make sure like they could get it out there. Everyone's competing. And then also, like, let's call it for what it is. Some of this is regionally based, right? Some of these USL 1 teams can't afford to travel all the way across the country to make these numbers work a little bit more evenly. So some of this is broken down to like, hey, it's just naturally easier to, put all like the SoCal and the Southwest teams together, because like, if one team has to do all this traveling because they're in the 4-person group versus the 6, I get it. I think it will get better over time, and like, let's just call it like baby steps, growing pains. And if we do have to do wild cards in the future, I want them to be complete knockout in-game tournament ones and get more teams competing for it. Otherwise, let's set the right number of groups and then just call it where it is.
I think it'll be easier as the system expands in regards to the USL to maybe flesh some of this out. Like you said, too, baby steps in the regards that this is a brand new tournament and they are able to just make up the rules as they go. So we'll see. We'll take stock at the end of the year, like what went well, what could be better, what was bad. How do we kind of progress this tournament forward? But
yeah,
like I mentioned in the last question, so far so good. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I just the most important thing is when we get to the number where we're pretty well set, I don't want there to be teams in the group that they're not playing. That to me needs to be removed. Like expand it so that there's 16 groups then, and it's groups of 3 then if we have to go down. Like I don't want to see it where you don't play every single team in your group from a consistency standpoint. So next question here, Carlos E writes in, with the current performance in the Jägermeister Cup, Jason, how far will we go in this tournament?
I mean, the sky's the limit in terms of like we made a USL championship final last year. Why can't we make the final of this one? I don't know off the top of my head how long the playoff system is by chance in this. Do you? So like once we get past the group stages, how many is it? Quarterfinals, semifinals, finals?
Correct.
Or is there another?
There should be 3. There should be 3 play-in games. So the problem with the play-in games is that your seed ranking is determined by your performance from each of the groups, and then the wild cards automatically slot to whoever's drawn against them, with the only rule that you can't play a team in your like inner group. So like if you're the wild card out of group 4, you can't play the winner of group 4. That's the only thing. But what's interesting to me is more of the fact that it gets randomized on like where the tournament gets held at that point. So it becomes very much like Open Cup, like you're just did we get lucky and get home field advantage, so to speak, on that one. So that's the part where it's like that's the variable. It doesn't matter how good we do in the group stage. It's like once you get in, you're into the permanence of the knockout soccer, but there's no guarantee that you'll get that home field advantage. And so if I were to say just strictly on like, if we get looks at home, because remember, we haven't played a Jägermeister Cup game yet in Centerville Bank Stadium. I don't know if you remember this, Jason. It's a place that we haven't exactly won a game at yet. But, I don't know if that's an advantage or a disadvantage, especially for this Rhode Island FC side. What I can tell you with a certainty at this point almost is that, we're in first place in Group 4. We're in first place in the entirety of the Jägermeister Cup when you look at goal differential. So that would then automatically, if we were to drop a point right now, as it stands, we still have 2 games left, we would take one of the wild card spots. So like projections wise, I'm not a statistician here, but like I would say we've got like a pretty good chance of at least making it into the next round. But then it's just going to come down to the randomness of where we play and who our opponent will be.
Yeah.
I mean, like right now, if you look at it, the teams that would advance right now, let's talk about this. Sacramento Republic out of Group A, Indy 11 out of Group B, New Mexico United out of Group C, us Group D, Loudoun United Group E, and whether you believe this or not, the Miami FC out of Group F. If you were to tell me in that first, and knowing the knockouts, I think the knockouts right now are, in terms of goal differential and points, I think Hartford and Birmingham are still in the wild card spots. So of those teams, we can't play Hartford in the next round. We can beat Birmingham. I'd like to think we can beat Miami, but we're going to find that out in the week to come. Loudoun scares me. Sacramento, I mean, they don't scare me. Indy 11, they don't scare me. New Mexico United scares me. So maybe SAC actually scares me too. Like, so there's 3 to 4 teams out of the advancing group that we could win. But if we get drawn away to Sacramento Republic, you tell me, you think we could win that right now in our current state?
I don't know. Charlotte Independence is in second place in their group. You think we could revenge against them?
Well, it comes down to the goal differential at that point. So they'd have to make a lot bigger of a run than they're at right now. So hard to say from a prediction standpoint. But listen, that's the beauty of tournament soccer. And the best part is that I don't think Kano is any less prioritizing this. I think it's as important to him as the regular season right now, and that's what matters. That's what matters most.
Yeah. Next one on here, Leo says losing at home is frustrating, but of these couple of games, is it better for us to have taken the Jägermeister Cup game instead of the league game?
Ooh, that's a good question. Because, like, on one hand, if you had dropped points, we wouldn't be in first. And I don't even think we would be in the wild card because we would be at, like, whether we be at 3, we got 1 point for 4, we took like a, I don't know, the penalty conversion thing is, I still want to see it. I just don't want it to be us. I think this is the
Now,
right thing.
wouldn't that also mean Hartford would be on top of the group?
Yeah, and we don't want Hartford on top anywhere, ever, Jason. So I think Jaeger's the right. I think if you had to pick between the two from where the significance of the table standings are, I think this is the bigger deal. I think this is the more important win. I think the downside to it is thinking bigger picture. We still haven't gotten a win at home. And instead, now we have our first loss before we had our first win, which is something we experienced last year at Burns Stadium, having first lost to Detroit and Phoenix before we picked up the win against El Paso. So optics wise, like you know me, I'm always thinking like, how does this experience grow the fan base? And if it's not doing that, like I start to panic, right? Because I want more fans. I want more people getting excited about this project and coming to games. Not yet being able to produce a win in front of a New England community that like wants a winner, sprinkle in a little bit of bad weather, like that's not a good recipe. So like I'm happy for the result, but from a demographic standpoint, like I want to see sellouts at the stadium. I want that to be the bigger narrative of the year than anything other than like, okay, let's go win some hardware, but that's so far down the road. I want to see all the sellouts before we get to that point. So optics wise, I would have rather had the win during the regular season, but performance wise and table standings, I think getting this win was bigger than the one last week.
Yeah, that's fair. I think if I had to choose either or, I mean, just the fact that it, maybe can tie into this, this next question you have here for me.
But Ben S writes in, with the Detroit loss to Portland and our win against Pitt, do you think we'll advance to the next round of the Cup?
And so to also tie that back into the previous question, obviously I want to win at home, but this puts us in a really good position, I think, to advance out of the group stages. We've got 2 matches left, Hearts of Pine and Hartford. Hearts of Pine is the real deal. It was not an easy game against them at home, and I do not expect it to be any easier at all. If anything, that they've now been a team for longer, it could anything be a slightly more difficult game. Hartford is hard to tell what's going on with them. They seem to know how to score goals for one thing, but they can't hold on to leads. So, I still think that there's a very good chance for us to beat Hartford because I think that the players will be up for it. And then it's kind of a grab bag there whether or not we can beat Hearts of Pine. So even at that 3 wins, and then we're not sure yet. I think that's really good opportunity for us to move on to the next round, and then from there, it's anyone's game.
Yeah, I agree. I think we make it to the next round, and I can tell you why Hartford can't keep their head above water. Their defense falls apart because they gave away the league's second best keeper in the middle of preseason. So when you can't keep your keeper, usually that's a bad sign.
I'm surprised Ribeiro's not playing anywhere. He was really good. I don't know what's going on with him there.
I don't know either. I don't know, but let's hope he doesn't find a club within the East, or maybe it's a club in the West that we've worked. Go to Oakland. That's fine. We'll see you in the USL Cup. Next question.
Rachel here says, glad we got the win, but that was a terrible game to watch.
Yeah, I kind of already talked about it at the beginning in the opening monologue there. It wasn't fun, but here's the thing, is I don't think that Rhode Island FC is necessarily to blame for that. I think this is more of a Pittsburgh problem Pittsburgh doesn't play attractive soccer. I think that's been like the one consistent thing we've always talked about. And so when you have an ugly team doing what did you call it a couple weeks ago? Football terrorism. When you have an ugly team playing an ugly style, all we can do is match it, right? And that I think is full credit to Kano and the lads. This is exactly what they went out and did. It wasn't pretty, but they got the 3 points and we move on. I remember a certain MLS team that you and I follow pretty devotedly, how they played some of the worst games, always on the road, because they were set up in a way they wanted the 0-0. They wanted to play where it was just ugly, physical, disgusting soccer. And if they got a point, that was all that mattered, because taking points is what you do, right? Whether it's 1 or 3, but not taking points doesn't get you to your objective. I mean, think about us last year as the Draw Kings. Sure, you can say, well, imagine how many of those we converted to wins. Well, imagine how many were converted to losses. We wouldn't have probably made it to the Cup final. So I hate having to watch those games. It makes it a lot more difficult for us to pull interesting things out of the game to talk about. So the Thursday show is going to be probably struggling a little bit. We may just have to go straight to the preview of Miami, but in reality, I blame this more on Bob Lilly than I do Kano Smith. We've seen what Kano Smith wants to do on a daily basis. This is not his fault.
Do you think that in a weird way, Bob Lilly hates soccer, and he's trying to make it so ugly and miserable that he's like, no one will ever want to watch this game, except for he's too good at it. Or maybe he just really hates Brazil. He's like, oh, the beautiful game, the Jogo Bonito. He's like, I hate that. I want the ugly game.
I just look at Bob Lilly as the kind of guy, he eats the same meal every day. Like, he goes to the same cafe diner, gets a coffee, gets his same meal. He's got it every day for his entire life.
Probably eats Scrapple every day.
Just oh man. Fans that don't know that,
Scrapple boy.
go look up Scrapple.
No. Just go to Pennsylvania and order Scrapple. Are we still
going to the away game there, knowing how unattractive and how unglamorous these matches will be?
It'll be awful.
Okay, let's get some Scrapple. We'll do one of our footy scran videos. We'll have to make producer Torin come out, and he'll have to document the entire thing. But yes, Bob Lilly absolutely is the kind of man that gets a coffee and a plate of Scrapple, and he's been going to the same place for 50 years, and he's just set in his ways. And that's why the game hasn't evolved, is because Bob Lilly's still here being successful in this league, showing that you can do it by playing with 1975 tactics. So
gas is still 75 cents in Bob Lilly's world.
Speaking of, there's a vending machine we're going to go to in Pittsburgh that still gives out cans of Pepsi for 50 cents. And it's like wrapping is Star Wars The Phantom Menace. And it's a pilgrimage. We're going to go to it and get some I don't like Pepsi, but we're going to go get some Pepsi out of this vending machine for 50 cents. So bring some quarters
for that trip. Is pod racing. I can't wait.
But let's get back to it. Joe B, so not Joe P, Joe B writes in, the ref was giving a lot of soft contact fouls. What you allow is what you condone. Foul and card selection was bizarre at best. Jason, this ref was, we can talk about the qualities of Pro, but the reality was, I think it was 24 fouls and 4 yellow cards in the first half. I didn't think the Maxi Rodriguez yellow was even warranted. You can step side to side to block a player on a fast kick from going forward. There's you don't have to play it backwards, but if it's a fast kick, you don't want them getting past you. And he got a yellow for disrupting it. And then Jackson Walty, 2 minutes later, or not 2, but 20 minutes later, does the same thing, no card. This ref, though, oh my gosh, every time there was contact, it was bad. And then the players knew it, so they're like, well, hey, I'm gonna go down every time. I'm gonna simulate, because this ref's calling those, and I need to get my team in position for whatever the reasons were. Thoughts on the ref and the overall experience in the game?
21 fouls apiece, so perfectly balanced. 42 fouls there. I I don't know. It was a bit of an ugly game.
Jason, that's a
In
foul
regard,
like every 2 minutes.
yeah. Oh yeah, no, it's definitely wasn't perfect, a pleasant watch. In regards to the ref, like I don't want to complain about a ref too much when we won a game. So I like you had said, I think when it comes to this match, the reason the match was the way it was is because of Bob Lilly's tactics and the way that Pittsburgh play. And that kind of also affects in terms of the ref and how everything panned out. Um, so I don't have too much complaints, and maybe that's me being unfair in regards to will most likely complain about a ref more when we don't do well in a game. Obviously I want consistency there, and when you say like, you condone what you permit, I understand that, but unfortunately that is part of the game here, right? And a lot of players will use that to their team, not even just players, but teams will use that to their advantage, where if you see that a ref is giving a certain type of foul, well, maybe you use that foul to your advantage to slow down the play, to get yourself a, free kick in a good position on the field. It's unfortunate, but it's part of the game. So we won. I'm not too fussed about it. I would like to see better reffing overall, but we'll get there slowly but surely.
When I saw the number of fouls starting to creep up and the lopsidedness of the yellow cards early in the first half, I was like, oh, Kano may get the first red of his RIFC career. And he got his yellow like a few minutes after I thought that. I'm like, one more is coming. And there was a moment I tweeted about it. Chico went down. He got an elbow to the throat. No call. They stopped the play, but no card, nothing. And it was right in front of Kano. And so you just see him, you see him go completely nuclear. He goes to look at the fourth official. He's already on a card. And you see for just a second, he's like, I'm going to choose violence today. And Spratty comes up and just I got this, and pushes him away and just goes over and gives the fourth official the business. And yeah, I get it. Fourth official, it's just the worst thing you could ever have in your life is being the fourth official. But
It's just a punching bag.
It was so bad. It was so bad. I will say this before we move on to the question. Part of it for me that was frustrating, watching the Champions League final and just watching how fast-paced that was. Milan fell a lot in that game, and no calls were being awarded to them. The ref was incredibly consistent about it. And just watching the higher speed, watching the tenacity of both teams, and then going to what we got just an hour later in USL play. I know we talk about the level of difference all the time, but man, it was painstakingly obvious. Just the professionalism in terms of the reffing, the speed, the tempo, the crispiness of the game, like we like to talk about. It was pretty eye-opening. So
yeah. Next one here, Zach L. Do you think Isaac's return to the bench is being rushed?
I mean, Kano is not going to injure one of his players. As a former player himself, knowing the importance of a healthy recovery, knowing how hard Isaac has worked to get back into this squad. I mean, I remember Zlatan Ibrahimovic, after he got his ACL with Manchester United, everyone's like, he's too old, he's done. And he was back in less than 10 months, right? And went on to have one of the highest goal-scoring careers for a striker in MLS. And so I look at this as just, we've talked at length that Isaac's had this dark cloud following him for years with the injury bug. And he had these freak injuries. So I think he just knows how to work through it. I think he's accustomed to it. I don't think Kano would rush his actual ability to be a positive contributor and be healthy at the same time. I just don't see him doing that. I mean, look how long he waited to bring Amos Shapiro-Thompson in. What's more interesting to me is knowing where I saw him at training before I went off on this vacation spell I've been on. He wasn't at full contact training yet. So the jump in 2 to 3 weeks before you've been medically cleared, you're not going to be at full contact yet. You're not going to be doing those hard cuts on your knee. I was a bit part of me then goes and thinks that maybe we didn't rush it, but this was more of a way to help Isaac out of like the Puerto Rico conversation. I don't know for sure, but like it's either one, Kano has faith that he's ready to go, or two, it was some political football maneuvering. And I'm okay with either one. I guess the real question will be, do we see him on the bench against Miami this upcoming weekend? If we don't, then we know it was the second and not the first.
I think we'll see him on the bench. I'm not worried in regards to rushing anyone back. I think that this club so far has been very careful about bringing anyone back who's not ready. I mean, there's players we haven't even seen that we constantly talk about, and their timelines keep changing, right? I think that, if they were maybe trying to actually push players to come back, maybe we'd be having some different conversations in that, because maybe we would see the likes of Bacharach or Rivera be pushed out to try and get onto the field, especially when results weren't going well. But I think the reality is they understand that these are players' livelihoods, and you risk further damaging them and causing issues further down the line. It's better to just wait till they're actually ready before you get them out onto the pitch.
Agreed. All right. Next question here from John M. Was this last performance a step in the right direction for Chico? Jason, did Chico improve his game?
I mean, maybe I would be called a bit of a Chico apologist the other day when I was trying to defend him a little bit there. Like I think that he definitely can do better, but I think it's good performance for him. Obviously, getting an assist. I think he still needs to score a goal. I'm happy that he's got assisting into his game. Like, if I'm going to be a little more critical about him here, like I think that I'm really glad that he's able to work very hard for this team and that he can link up and help others score. But I think for us to be the team that we were at the end of last year, or even be a better version of that team, if we want to take it to that next level and actually win ourselves some hardware, I think he's going to need to be a little more consistent at scoring. That being said, is this a step in the right direction? Yeah, I mean, I think he's maybe at least not like diving or sinking deeper. He's kind of keeping at pace about where he is in regards to being a contributing player to a certain extent with this team, but maybe just not a goal scorer that we want him to be.
I mean, I think that's perfectly fair. I'm curious because now he has 4 assists across all competitions, but 2 of those, of course, are only in the regular season. The other 2 now in the Jägermeister Cup. I'll be really interested to see if they have one of those things where we see, like golden playmaker, golden boot of the tournament as well, because that could be really, really exciting to know that Chico could become the golden playmaker of the Jägermeister Cup. I mean, he's technically got 3 contributions when you look at his goal that was scored against Westchester. So, I mean, I don't hate it. We could see some real good magic out of that.
Yeah. What do we got here next? Hillary P. Getting the win against Riverhounds was huge, but is it too soon to count that since it was in a separate tournament?
I don't. No, you count it. It's a professional game against a professional side. Neither team was phoning it in with a rotation of like heavily B squatted ranks, and it was playing for hardware. So no, I think you do count it. And if what's the supporter group at the Steel Army? If the Steel Army says you still haven't beat us in the regular season, like, well, we get one more look at you now, and now we know we have the confidence that we can beat you. I think you have to count it. Do you have a different opinion on that?
No, I agree. I think you have to count it, and I think you could look at this even 2 different ways. You can look at it in terms of, do you count it in terms of beating the Riverhounds? Yes. Can you throw stats at me and say, well, we haven't beat them in the championship? I'm like, sure, whatever. We still beat you. It's fine. All comps. And then in the same regards of like, okay, well, this still keeps up our winning away. Maybe there's still some home troubles, but like that momentum still carries on to the next match. You know, whether or not what competition it is, it's still the same team playing. Right? It's not a bunch of different guys put on RAFC jerseys, went out there and won a game. Right? That wouldn't mean anything. But it's still the same squad. Maybe a tiny bit of rotation, but it's all the same guys, all the same lads hanging out together, practicing and working together, and that energy they feed off of each other. So that will continue on into our next match, and hopefully, you know, the Miami FC maybe can be a good result for us at home.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Next question here from Elizabeth. Any updates on the merch shop? Online status, normal shop hours? It's simply too hard to visit on game day. I wish the club would make it easier to buy stuff.
So the online shop actually just activated today, Sunday, you know, or if you're listening to this on Monday, I think when we post it yesterday. I think that from what I quickly checked it out earlier, I think compared to what is available in the actual store, it's not everything, but it is a pretty good selection. So it is a starting point. So I'm glad that they finally got that back up and running. And then from there, you know, I don't know in regards to if there's some kind of, if enough people want there to be some sort of outside business hours, maybe we can try and put some pressure on the club, or if enough people say like, hey, maybe, I don't know, Friday between the hours of just some hours in the day, maybe they're open for 4 or 5 hours. So you could swing by and pick some stuff up when is convenient for you. Maybe that might be something that could be in the works down the line. For now, remember, it is our first year in Centerville Bank Stadium. Last year, their merch was a tent outside of a college stadium that they had to set up hours before the game and then immediately decompose it and move it out as soon as the game was done. So they actually have a little brick and mortar store now. So everything is new again to a certain extent. So I think if enough other people want this, it'll probably happen eventually. But the online store is at least back up for now.
Yeah, so the online store's up. By the way, there's a shirt in there in the youth section. It's the bay blue, or the bay blue is the dark. I don't remember what color blue the off blue is, but
like
it does,
the lighter shade of blue.
It does right here have anchors up. So just saying, I appreciate that.
I like that Clay was modeling one of the chip shirts on the online store too.
Oh, all the players are now models for it. Maxi,
yeah.
Koke, yeah. The more interesting thing though for me was that the mint keeper kit is now online, and it's more expensive than the other kit. So people have been saying all season, like, when are we going to get new kits? Well, there technically is a goalkeeper kit now in the system. It's the long sleeve one, so maybe that's why it costs a little bit more money. But I was a bit surprised to see like a kit $15 more than the legacy kits there. And then, you know, to the point beyond the online, I think the club is like contracting out for the merch shop to be open. So it's not like they can just put one of their employees in there for the day and be like, come on in. That being said, Jason, I do think that there's some power to saying like, hey, on like away weeks, what if we open it up for 4 hours, like around the time the game was, especially for people that would be coming to the guild. It's a great way to like build watch parties and traffic in the community, advertise it, put like a special 10% discount, you know, on top of your season ticket member discount. I think there's ways around it. It's just too new to worry about just yet. But I imagine as things progress and people get more accustomed to it, I'm sure there will be somewhat changeable shop hours. There will never be like a Monday through Friday. There may never even be like every single week, but they may say like game days, or, you know, every third Friday of the month, and then just kind of go from there. But either way, it's a step in the right direction because it's been 3 months and we haven't been able to buy anything online. So I'll take anything at this point.
All right. Next one, Derek V says, "Hey guys, have a question about RIFC's YouTube page, putting out the post-game interviews with Kano and a few of the players. Are they not having any post-game interviews this season, or are they just not posting them on YouTube anymore?" Anchors up. Thanks, Derek. I mean, I've been to one of those. I'm pretty sure they exist, and I know you've been to all of them.
I mean, I missed the one in Pittsburgh. I will not miss the one this weekend against Miami.
That one didn't happen.
Right. I mean, it may not have. You weren't in there as media. I wasn't there. I have no idea. Maybe that's why we don't have one for it. I'm actually going to go back and check the credential page and see if that's there. Long story short, I don't know why YouTube's not posting it. Maybe the media manager, who's not the same media manager as last season, maybe there was a change in direction and they don't see the value of that. Maybe they're not providing that so journalists and people like ourselves can use it as content or provide the stories to drive people to their articles or their published form of, educating people. So they do exist. I don't know why they're not existing on Rhode Island's page. Maybe when they hear this, they'll do something about it. But if they don't, we can start incorporating those back into the show. We only stopped doing it because we were like, well, people are going and watching it anyways. So if they're not, we can absolutely have like a Kano's Corner moment where we just put up the interviews and then provide the content directly to you guys. I have no problem doing that. I just didn't realize that they weren't on the YouTube channel since, like Jason said, we're there and we experienced it firsthand. So we've already kind of got that information. So Derek, I'll find out more, but my commitment to you guys is that if they are no longer going to be on the RFC page, we will put them into the show so that you can enjoy them through us. I don't know if I can publish them separately. That may be a difficult thing, but I can find out. Maybe we can make them as clips throughout the week. I don't know. That could be more work than is worth the trouble, but you have our word. We'll make sure that you guys can get direct access to the questions that Jason and I ask every week, because it's always Jason and I.
Sometimes someone else chimes in.
Sometimes. Well, that's it. That's the questions this week. We have a choice, Jason. We can keep waxing poetic for a bit here, talk about our feelings, or we can end a podcast for the first time under an hour. What do you want to do here? Balls in your court.
Did you see PSG absolutely annihilate Inter Milan? I kind of didn't expect that to happen. It was one of the most one-sided Champions League games I've ever seen. It was actually, I think, the biggest deficit ever.
Yep, in the history since 1972. I actually learned something about the Champions League. I didn't know that it was created off of the whim of a French journalist saying there should be a tournament that decides who's the best in all of Europe. So I didn't even know that was a thing and that it was created in France. I knew PSG had never won it, but getting to see it come home, obviously with the storyline for Enriquez, there was a lot of moments there. Surprisingly, Milan, and I know some people saw this online afterwards, but they lost everything this year. They lost Serie A, they lost 2 Italian cups, they lost Champions League. They were in the hunt for all of them into the finals. They lost everything.
Yeah, I mean I think they've won 3 Champions League finals though, so it's they have a rich history. So
yeah,
I mean, it definitely.
Imagine in 1 week, Jason, in 1 week, you lose the Scudetto, and then at the end of that week, you lose Champions League. It's a tough day to be a Milan fan of Inter in Italy right now.
Yeah, wild times. There's actually CONCACAF Champions Cup going on right now between
Vancouver and is Vancouver up?
Cruz Azul is smashing them. It's 4-0 at halftime.
oh no.
Yeah, no, we can't beat Mexican teams here in the MLS. It's just not a real thing. Even Canadian teams can't do it. It's the MLS curse.
This is a precursor to the World Cup next year. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. USL teams could do it though.
Well, if we're going to talk about other things, since you now wanted it to go over the hour mark, which you've done successfully, I want to ask you, Ange could be out at Tottenham, wins the first trophy in 17 years, but he takes 17th place and his job is on the line. Is that the appropriate level of measure? I mean, think of this before you say anything. We have a person in our fan group who wants Kano out after being in first place in the Jägermeister Cup and 6th in the regular season standings. Someone who talks at length that Kano should not be on this team or in charge. Should Ange be out?
I mean, hashtag not a Tottenham supporter, so I guess take my view with a grain of salt. You know what? If I was Ange, I would just mic drop and leave. Right?
Yeah.
Like he's been
many clubs would pick him up.
And he's been getting lambasted for just everything and everything. Show up, coach for 2 years, win a trophy later. I'll go coach anywhere else and they'll all get more respect and
go do the Mourinho thing where you cycle into the club, you win for 3 years, you cycle into the club. In this case, you play you season for 2 years, you win one trophy, and then you move on to the next thing. So he's just every 2 years. I mean, that's the millennial thing these days anyways. 2 years in a job and then you move on. So it's perfect.
I would just do that. With them, it's a weird position because there's a lot of money you get from just being in the Champions League. I mean, I think I forget how the Europa League works. Do they get automatic qualification?
Correct. Yes.
So then at that point, are they just missing out on, I think there's probably different prize packages based upon your position in the league, right? So is that all they're what would be the main, why would you want to fire him? Because
you took 17th. It was the worst in Tottenham's history in a very long time, maybe of all time. And they were knocking on the door of relegation. I know that the point differentiation was so far that I don't think they could have, but still 17th out of 20 is that's as close as it gets.
Yeah, but you won a trophy, so I don't know.
Dark days ahead for Tottenham fans. Final question of the night. This one hits closer to home. KDB potentially going to Napoli and not the Chicago Fire. How sad are you going to be that you don't see your boy in an MLS game near you soon?
I don't want him to be coached by GGGGGGG. So honestly, I like a player of his caliber, I think he should stay in Europe, and I think he looks good in light blue. I'll become a Napoli fan. I'm fine with that.
So when I was in Napoli,
I've no Italian allegiances, so I don't care.
So when I was in Napoli, and I knew this, but I forgot it because I was just so focused on getting some good pizza. The amount of Diego Maradona pictures and flags, I think they might revere him as a god more than Argentina. It was everywhere. I was dumbfounded at the amount of Maradona stuff that I saw. It was insane. It was insane, dude. This one place, they called their margarita pizza the Margarita Maradona. I don't know if the thing that was sprinkled on top, it was white, but I'm pretty sure it was Parmesan. But they did do it in a line, and I thought that was hilarious. So gotta keep it. We're still family friendly, even on the Monday mailbags, but I gotta keep it there. I know it's a final question, but this is the real last question. Christian Pulisic not coming potentially to the U.S. men's national camp for Gold Cup. We're just a year away from World Cup on home soil. Is this just the biggest screw you move since Landon Donovan?
I mean, honestly, he probably needs some rest, but also maybe it's a good opportunity to really cycle through a lot of the other players, because I've heard it's not just him. I heard there's some other high profile players who kind of want some rest, especially with the looming World Cup coming next year. I think it's actually not that bad of an idea. From there, cycle through some of the rosters. Maybe let's see Diego Luna's, USMNT. I'm ready for that timeline.
But I mean, this is still a moment to test yourself against Mexico, right? Not having Pulisic, not having Robinson, not having Musa,
but they were abysmal in that the Leagues Cup.
Abysmal. But don't you need them to then get another look? You say rest, I say no. You need to go put more training and practice in with this squad. You get so few chances between now and the biggest stage. Like, I don't care if you have rest. You can rest when you're dead. You can rest after the World Cup. Like,
rest is important. And I think that with the way like the off season keeps shrinking, I'm okay with it. I think that there's maybe a bit of rust or something in this team, and I think honestly some new blood to come in and potentially maybe even challenge some of the older guys who think that their places are just, like it's a foregone conclusion that they're just automatically going to be there. If some of these younger guys come in and they work for the badge and they fight harder than maybe some of these other guys do who think I'm a big European player, like a big name guy, I should just be in this team. Bring some of the young guys in, let them prove their worth. And maybe from that we can actually have a more competitive and balanced squad, because that really was embarrassing, that Leagues Cup game. Like, the Trinidad and Tobago was like frustrating, right? Like, maybe one of in our recent US history, like one of our definitely worst, but I don't know, that Nations Cup performance wasn't too far off that either. It was really bad. The
so
fact that
saying,
it was just an auxiliary tournament that you kind of like, whatever. It's easy to write it off because it doesn't have any real implications. But those were really bad games.
Sure. I don't see the reward of like you're a lock-on starter with bad performances the same way. It's like, hey, you don't even need to be here. Like, fine, if you aren't going to play in the camp, like be there at the camp, like gel with the team in other ways, get the locker room ready to go. Like, again, World Cup, home soil. It's not World Cup some other random place. It is our time to shine. Like, I would want to see these players just for 18 months go the extra mile in their careers, and we'll see what happens. But what I'm also hearing is that you're now an East Hartford, Connecticut apologist, because what you really want is Patrick Agamang to step up and be the U.S. men's national team forward, along with Diego Luna somewhere as a USL midfielder. That's what I'm really hearing right now.
USL supremacy. Let's get Nick Marcanic some looks in the men's national team.
I'll take both Marcanics. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Well, that should be it for the show. You tricked me into going an extra 10 minutes just so that we could never have a sub 60 podcast. I appreciate that about you.
I was only going to go for like 2 minutes to just kill some time because we are so close. And then
once you cross that threshold, we've got hour 2 to reach. Like, that's the rule. So, but for fans that have been listening along, let us know if you actually like us talking about things outside of Rhode Island FC, because I have a feeling people were like, we're going to just tune out at the 58th minute because I don't care about the Spurs. I don't care about City.
Well, they're not going to tell us because they've already turned off.
Oh, that's good. Hey, you're right. Get us out of here.
All right, everyone. Make sure to check out our friends over at the Blazing Musket for all of your new English soccer coverage, and that's including RFC at theblazingmusket.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Threads, TikTok, and Blue Sky at RAFC Podcasts. We have an Instagram at Raising Anchor, and we've got that website, raisinganchorpodcast.com. Anchor's up, y'all. Catch you on Thursday.
Anchor's up.